Hey guys, welcome back to the channel, and today we've got something which has been requested by quite a few people. So this is your standard 9 gen carry dash, alright? So there is actually a rare optional extra which came on the Vans, and here it is. I've got it, and it actually adds a tachometer onto it. So instead of having your temperature gauge off to one side over there, you've now got your fuel and temperature gauge on this side and the tachometer on that side. So we've already tried to match, come on focus, we've already tried to match the mileage on that compared to what's already in mine by disassembling this. Not going to include that in this video because it's a pain in the arse. So now the task is, can I get my dash out, or can I get my gauge cluster out of my dash? So filming in the dark, I think it's time-lapse mode. Let's go. Alright, I'm back. I realised, because I decided to set it up as a time-lapse, it doesn't record any audio, and if it did, it would have been sped up anyways. So I'm going to give you this voiceover. First thing I did was I ended up taking off my steering wheel to try and free up a little bit of space. And if you don't know how to do that, I've actually got a video a little bit further back on the playlist I'm going to put in the end cards. So let's get into it. There is around about 5 or 6 screws holding the main dash piece in place. I think about four or 5 of them are located up at the top, which are visible, and then there is 2 which are round about where your button controls are for axle lock if you've got a 4-wheel drive version. So once you've got them all out, you soon come to realise, oh, alright, there's a few more other things which need to be dismantled. So starting with the climate control knobs, or whatever the hell you want to call them, you just give them a good pull. I know that sounds a bit weird, but that's how I managed to make mine come off. So once you've taken them off, you come to realise, oh, the bit of plastic fascia for your hazard button is actually in the way. So the quickest method of moving that bit of fascia out of the way is to actually undo most of it and drop the steering column. Stupid design, because imagine if you only just wanted to change a bulb which had blown out on your gauge cluster instead. It would be a pain in the arse to do all of this. So once you've got your steering column out of the way, simple matter of disconnecting the air vents. So I actually found out my driver's vent is actually taped or glued in some form to the plastic vent inside. So I had to pry it off with a flathead screwdriver. Did slightly crack it, but it's still usable. So now you've got the main bit of the fascia off, and now you've got your gauge cluster in front of you. You think it's going to be plain and simple. It's not. What you've got to do is get your hand behind the dash and reach up, disconnect the cable for your speed readout. This is a fun one. If you're like me and got big hands, you can't really get your hands behind the dash. So I ended up struggling. All you've really got to do is get a tight grip on it and pull the cluster. And I managed to get it out. So, as now I've got both gauge clusters out, I need to do a few little things on it. So on the one which I'm putting in from the van, I need to reconnect, or I need to transfer one of the wires over from its wiring loom to mine, the one which runs down to the coil pack. And the other thing I need to do, because we've already had this apart, to, well, put the numbers as close as we possibly could on the dials. One thing I need to do is re-glue the cylinder back in, because it was originally has been like heat sealed on. I'm assuming like melted with a soldering iron, but not 100% sure. So this gives you a chance to have a little look how the actual cluster goes together. If the dials weren't red and this one didn't have the trip, whatever the fuck you want to call it, the trip bit, you could theoretically just nick that dial out for your original cluster and put it into the new housing. I wouldn't see any reason why that wouldn't work. So on this, I'll zoom in. So on this roll here, what you need to do is pull it up and out, and then you can either do the method showing now,
Six and a half hours later.
You know what needs? The SpongeBob time cards. 2 hours later. Between the two clips.
That's it, isn't it? 45.
Using the drill to wind it down or wind it around, or depending how far off it is, you could get away with putting a small screwdriver in there on a drill and spinning it manually. Problem we had was this was over 20,000 or something like that, which is bloody impressive for a K truck. So what we had to do is take this cylinder out, and you can sort of separate each individual bit and manually turn them to what you need. So we're hoping everything will function when I put it in a little bit. So I've got to get to gluing and soldering. So time-lapse mode. So I would have used my hot glue gun, but the thing's decided to bloody break itself. So time to go with the sketchier method.